In your work in supply chain, you really have to be looking with the lens of transparency. There's nothing worse in buying. There's lots of risk right now, surprises. That's when you really get hit. Climate shocks are a real thing now. We've had the supply chain disruptions from the prolonged pandemic impact where freight, all the ports are clogged, and it's very expensive right now to move freight around the world. And so at Lush, we build really resilient models, meaning that we have more than one supplier on many materials around the world. And we also work very closely with suppliers to understand the risks that they face, whether it's climate related, and then we can manage that on a material level and how much inventory we hold. Are there ways that we can grow materials more sustainably or regeneratively to limit those climate shocks on materials? And overall, you have to be looking at the entire model and the entire value chain, and so that you can protect yourselves. Resilience is like the strength in the people and how on-time delivery and stability of supply, ultimately. And it's being able to work through all those challenges collectively so that you can keep materials flowing. And that's from the lens of raw materials, and because Lush, we're integrated, we're always working very closely with our demand planning teams, our retail teams, digital teams, all working collectively around the level of materials and product required out to our shops and for our customers. Lush has moved forward in regeneration primarily because we were looking to grow our supply chains. And so when we looked at what our material volumes were, it was really hard to find that quantity of materials that we required, but also to the ethical standard that we wanted. And knowing that whatever ethical standard you're working towards is always changing and shifting, it's getting better. There's no finish line in ethics when you're growing materials. It's going to continue to evolve until we have an equitable, just, green future that's not the current reality we live in. So for us, our regenerative journey began in this exploration of how we grow our materials, and that is how we started to work with different producers. We got very into permaculture which is around earth care, people care, and fair share. And grounded in those foundations, we started to scale up some projects. And we did a lot of learning for a number of years, and we funded all this project work by putting some money aside. We had a separate funding mechanism that we called the Sustainable Lush Fund so that we could do all these cool initiatives. And then we started to build our own farms, because farming is one of the hardest professions in the world. Right now, the reality is if you farm, you often live in poverty. And so how could we really shift how that's done? How could you get more trees in the ground so that we could fight climate change, fight the climate emergency, do economic development, stack all those functions together, and then also pull materials out that we could use in our products? And so we've been trying to do that for many years, and we have 4 farms established around the world in different climate zones and different geographies, so that we also hope to build this really resilient web of supply hubs around the world. I think, first of all, it was a complete joy to be back with people again. And I really enjoyed the sense of community that was really present today for me, and that really deep collaboration. I think for a long time now, we've been talking about pre-competitive space collaboration. I think now, after 2 years of being apart, I think that has a whole new level of meaning and intention behind it. And I did enjoy the activation that Olivia brought today, talking about dolphins and how we're going to save our oceans. And I was just really moved by her words saying that COP was a failure, and to feel her energy around the change that is required. I felt her level of commitment and want to stand with her in solidarity in that journey.